greetings, family. Sister Shanice and Dr. Aboo in the house. How is the family? Dr. Aboo, how you doing?
We'll give thanks. Vudum, vudum.
Vodum. Right, the family. Dr. Aboo, how you doing? I'm so sorry. Let's
We'll
turn
give
this off
thanks. Vudum,
in
vudum.
the background. I'll just put this one on mute.
The family.
So here we are, another Wednesday evening. I want to thank all the family in advance who are going to be tuning in. We've got an interesting topic for discussion today. If you're watching, please let us know in the chat. Rise us up. Let us know from which part of the world you are logging in from. So today we can see we've got Afrijamo in the house who says, greetings, my African brothers and sister Shanice and panel in the house. Bless up, an African in London via Jamaica. Rise up, Afrijamo. Teddy Bear Fest, rise up yourself. He says, greetings, family. So, yeah, let us know that you're listening, where you're logging in from. You know, we want to know what part of the world you're from. So, Dr. Aboo, since last strong, how have you been, my brother?
Why must I say staying alive?
Staying alive. Yes, a dance comes to mind there. Rise up, Sister Verna. Greetings to you and greetings to all as well. Tuku, rise up yourself. He says greetings to everyone on the panel and in the chat room. And he's from the dump called England. Oh, I know that one. Nubian, rise up yourself as well, family. And Afrojamo's rising you up, Dr. Aboo, as well. Cherry B 2020 is in the house from Birmingham Strong in the UKKK. Rise up yourself. Alicia, she's in the house as well, says greetings from South London. Looking forward. Both looking regal and waiting for the show. Vudum. Rise up yourself, sis. And we've got Streslaglov. Streslaglov. Sister Shanice, love from Africa, Nigeria, precisely. Rise up yourselves. They've got a wonderful, wonderful channel and very Pan-African centered perspective you can get from that channel as well. That Setstra vlog. Rise up yourselves, my brethren and sisterins from Nigeria. So if you are new to this channel, my name is Sister Shanice, and we've been doing this Wednesday evening talk here on YouTube Live for about 4 strongs now, isn't it? About 4 strongs. Yep. And in case you're wondering what a strong is, we believe that language is very, very important. So instead of saying a weak, we say a strong. So this is about the 4 strong that we've been running these shows, and I am delighted and privileged to have Dr. Aboo alongside me. We will be joined also by Prophet Kwaku and also by our beloved brother Leo Muhammad. So we are expecting them to join us as well. In case you don't know, I'm a presenter on the Big G Galaxy Afiwi, which is an African-centered de-brainwashing station. I will put the links in the channel, in the description, so that if you want to log on and listen to any of our shows or give us a call and participate in the conversations and discussions that we have live over the air, you will be able to do so, because I'll put the contact details in the description below. And Dr. Aboo, please introduce yourself to the family.
Rise up, family, Aboo Rahtata, presenter on Galaxy Radio, community activist, and as I said, staying alive.
And that's what we've got to do, because from we're alive, family, that means we've got purpose. From we've got breath, it means there's another day and another opportunity to do the works that need to be done. Each and every one of us, we are here on this earth because we've got purpose. We have a job to do, a phenomenal job to do, because wow, after almost 2,000 years of being conquered first by the Arabs and then being conquered by the Europeans, we have got a job to do, to undo all of the brainwashing. Okay, I can see our brother Leo backstage. Let's bring brother Leo front of house. Rise up, brother Leo.
Greetings, my dear sister. Greetings, brother Aboo. Good to see you.
I know, my brother Jordan.
Rise
Give
up. Ah,
all the
the
time.
link is sounding good today. Fantastic. The gremlins in the past have been trying to get our brother Leo from dropping those voodoo messages that he has for us. But today is coming true loud and clear.
Let's see. Let's see how we go, inshallah.
Well, please do introduce yourself to the family, my brother.
My name is Brother Leo Muhammad, and I am, I guess, one of those people known as an activist, a black activist in the community here in the United Kingdom. Been working diligently for many, many years, trying to get our people to come together because the real thing that we need today is that thing, that elusive thing called unity. And so I spend the bulk of my time trying to formulate words and language and actions, practices, behaviors that illustrate the importance of Black unity, of African unity, of us as a people rebuilding the Black family specifically, which is the man, the woman, and the child. And then from there, appreciating that that's a foundational stone for nation building, that we can ultimately build ourselves back into a nation where we have all of the trappings that would represent a nation, where we control economics, where we control our social reality, where we control politics within our own group, and that we become an autonomous people once again, a sovereign people once again, where we're no longer subject to the former slave master, colonial master, and their children, where we once again recognize our independence, our sovereignty, and we operate like that. We can then coexist with other peoples. We can then do business with other people. We can then trade and interact with other people, but from the basis of an independent nation. Even if it's within another nation, we have that autonomy and that independence. So that's effectively what I'm all about. I'm a spiritual person. I'm a member of the Nation of Islam, i.e., I'm a Muslim. And again, what that means is something that many people don't really understand because they think that's pertaining to a religion, so to speak, some little group off in a corner somewhere. But in reality, it's much deeper and much bigger than that. And it's really about me as a black man whose ancestors were destroyed and enslaved over 400 years. It's about me returning to myself, me becoming the God that I was created to be in the first place, a child of the Most High God, the living God, the creator of the heavens and the earth. It's about getting back to that connection with my own self. So that's effectively what I'm all about, and I'm so honored and privileged to have an opportunity now for the last several weeks to share a platform with my beautiful brother Aboo, and on all the previous occasions, brother Kwaku, Prophet Kwaku has also been here, and of course hosted by our beautiful queen, our Sister Shanice.
Thank you so much. And as always, an honor and a privilege to have you, my brother Leo, as part of the panel. And of course, we thank all of those who are in the chat already communicating with us. Thank you for the compliments, saying I'm looking regal. Thank you so much. Some vudums to Dr. Aboo and some big ups to you already in the chat, my brother Leo. So rising up, chosen one, rising up, brother Kwame, rising up the entire family. And, as Brother Leo was just saying, we've had 400, 500 years of colonialism. Prior to that, we had about 1,500 years of Arab enslavement. For the last 2,000 years, we as a people have been indoctrinated so much. It's got to the point where, we have to try and find ourselves. And the words that come to me are the words from the great man himself, Imhotep, who over 3,000 years ago at least, he said, "Man, know thyself."
Know
And
thyself.
wow. And the reason why that's so important is because I believe he actually foresaw a time when we would need that message from him, because he kind of foresaw the plans of the enemy. He foresaw, the oppression that was coming our way, and the fact that we might be out of our mind. And so he said, "Man, know thyself." It means that we as a people, we're going to have to dig deep. We're going to have to go back into history, and we're going to have to find out who we were and therefore who we are. We're going to need to be mindful of our greatness as a people, because, for the last 400 or 500 years, the messages that we've been getting as a result of colonialism is that, we are inferior, we were savages, and that's why they needed to come and save us in Africa. We didn't live in any houses. We were swinging in the trees or had homes in the trees. We were told all of these really insulting and derogatory things about ourselves. But when we get to know ourselves, when we get to know who we were prior to those days of invasion, when we get to know the life that we were living prior to the Europeans coming to our shores, then we will realize just how great we really, really were, and therefore how great we are as a people. So the message from that great man himself, Imhotep, man, know thyself. And he didn't just mean men get to know yourself, man and woman. He's saying know thyself, because wrapped up in that, when we start searching to find out who we are as a people, and that is a role that every single one of us has to ensure that we undertake while we're here on this earth. That role of trying to know who we are as a people, because when we start peeling back the layers of all of the lies, all of the deceit, and all of the dishonesty and treachery, and all of the scientific information that's been, written by pseudoscientists to try and degrade us, once we start peeling back, all of the nonsense regarding our so-called inabilities and inferiority, once we start peeling back all of those layers, and we really get to know who we are as a people, we are going to be blown away with that knowledge. Absolutely blown away. My brothers, any one of you want to jump in here?
What it's saying is, it's true, really. Is we got to look in ourselves and examine. It's just like a good shopkeeper. Every year you do stock take. You look at your stock, what sell, what don't sell, them kind of way there. So the things them that we have to look at it and see what benefit it bring to us. You understand, and see how we can improve ourselves with it, or some of it we just throw it away. You understand? And how I look at certain things when, especially the colonial master give us anything personal, we have to be careful, because we're of the collective. Them said, when a child is sick, you take the whole family to the doctor. You understand? And nowadays, we are go to the doctor as an individual and forgot that we are from a family. You understand? As I said, I have to really watch everything the man give, because he give us this personal savior thing, and all it turn our people them into high class criminal blood. And the truth may I tell you. And we shouldn't looking on how to make money off our people, because all of us have to go to the cemetery. You understand? And that Wazungu give to us is how we can hustle one another, how we can cheat on one another, how we can grasp on one another, and some of us feel comfortable with it. But I don't feel comfortable with them things. That's the truth, I tell you. Because when I start to look in myself and look into my African principle, if I hurt Leo, I'm hurting myself. If I hurt you, I'm hurting myself. If I hurt your sis, I'm hurting myself. But sometimes we don't know this. Then tell us something different and we believe it. But I can guarantee you, if we continue down the road of inflicted pain on one another, then that is what we will reap. Simple as that.
Ashe, true talk there, Dr. Aboo. Let's welcome Prophet Kwaku. Greetings, Prophet Kwaku. Thanks for joining us this evening. How are you doing?
Yes, Madasi, good evening. Good evening, name the creating force at the universe, omnipotent being that which is greater than ourselves, who has many names. Uludumarin, Kulukulu, Kwame Blafoshe, Mungu, Onyeme, Jiniame, Amen Ra, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe.
Even to my brothers, Dr. Aboo and brother Leo Muha. And
greetings, my brother, greetings.
Yes, good evening to you, my sister Shanice.
Good evening.
Good evening to the entire African family who is tuning in and our enemies.
Grand evening. Welcome.
My apologies for being late. I do apologize. But doing father duties, you know?
Okay.
You are.
Okay, well done, well done. I hope it did come out good.
What you mean, man? I tell you.
So you're chef from morning. That's good, that's good. Well, family, you know, today's topic is one that we need to discuss as a family. And, you know, there's so much that we need to talk about because after 400 or 500 years of indoctrination from a Eurocentric perspective and prior to that from an Arab perspective, you know, we really do need to talk about who we are as a people and, you know, what our Africanness is really all about. So today's topic, you know, some may say is a bit sensitive, but we are going to be discussing it in a sensitive manner, you know, but, you know, like other topics, we need to discuss it like we discuss economics or we might discuss education or a whole range of other topics. We also need to look at, you know, the gods that we're serving and, you know, whose gods they are. Are they in our image? And what the impact is on us as a people as well from, you know, serving these gods. So we're going to look at, you know, the gods maybe that we served as Africans pre-Allah, pre-Jesus. You know, and we're going to do that in the spirit of utmost respect. And, you know, before we even go there, I think it's really important that, you know, I just put it out there that first and foremost, you know, before our nationality, before our tribe, before our religion or anything else, first and foremost, we are all Africans. And, you know, we are all one on that basis. And we're not knocking anybody's religion. It's okay for people to believe in what they want to believe in. But, you know, what we want to do is have a discussion about it and to look to what extent it's empowering us as a people, or if some religions are actually disempowering us and making us submissive. So we're going to have that discussion. As usual, our 2 hours, I'm sure, is just going to absolutely fly by. But, you know, we're going to do the best we can to begin this debate. Now, family, you can contribute to the discussion in the chat. You can share with us your views, your opinions, your comments, and, you know, we'll pull them into the discussion as well. Okay, so as I said, today we're going to actually look at the extent to which maybe the Eurocentric religion is maybe brainwashing us as a people to the point where we suffer from what we call here in the UK, the white savior complex. And that's a complex and a situation where we're waiting for others who don't look like us and, as we know, don't like us, to come and save us. Okay. And then we also want to look historically. Prior to, the indoctrination of these religions, we as Africans, we had our deities, we had our godheads, we had our Trinity, our mother, our father, our son, and every region in Africa, I have found from the research that I've been doing, had its belief system or its spirituality. Okay. And, these supernatural stories of creation, the Immaculate Conception stories, the Potter's Wheel stories, the creation stories, they're all there in all of the African spirituality and African, faiths that we had thousands of years before the Bible. Okay, so what we can see from that is that the Bible's actually borrowed everything from Africa. Africa is the origin of a lot of these stories that we are now reading in the Bible. So if we had the original, we have to ask ourselves, why are we possibly imitating, and adopting now something that doesn't look like us? And, we've had some greats who have come by and they've said, if you look at Buddha in China, the Buddha looks Chinese because the people are Chinese, so they worship a Chinese Buddha. If you look at the Buddha in Japan, he looks Japanese because the people in Japan are Japanese, so they're worshipping gods in their own image. And that's what we used to do prior to our indoctrination, colonization, our enslavement. There's so much more that I could say, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold it there for now. We're going to go around the panel with some opening comments and remarks, and we're just going to keep it flowing, okay? I certainly don't want to hog up the whole time of this because, well, my radio shows are 3 hours and I can talk for 3 hours long, but that's not what this show is all about. So by way of opening, just reminding us as a people that we had our deities, we had, our belief system, our netters. We believed in nature, that the supreme being, was bigger than a church. It couldn't be housed in a church. It was so big, we could see the manifestation of the works of the supreme being in the trees, in the vegetation, in the atmosphere, in the environment, in the life that it brings forth. The God was in everything, even in us, because we were part of nature. Now suddenly, we find that, we may be placing all of this power, that we used to have in ourselves, in nature and everything else. We're placing it now into these figures and waiting for these mythical figures now to save us. Is that the case or not the case? Let me go over to Dr. Aboo. Rise up, Dr. Aboo. What are your initial thoughts and comments, please, on this topic?
Well, give thanks, Prophet Quaker.
Okay.
Brother Leo, rise up, my brother. Sister Shanice, and to the families, them that is taking part in this vibration.
Voodoo.
I grew up in Jamaica. I born in this country. Grew up in Jamaica. My parents then sent me out from here when I was 6 weeks old, and I give thanks. And I grew up in an environment where a TV comes to me. We never go see TV. TV comes to me. And I experienced mother coming out of the hills, warning, telling you what's gonna happen down the road, what gonna take place during the day. And these people were coming from an African spirituality. You understand? She never come and say John tell her, or Matthew tell her, or Luke tell her. She tell her where the ancestor. See it? And these are the things them that I grew up on. But over the years, we have to go to church, go to Sunday school, learn our golden text and all of these things. And if we don't hold on to those things, if you don't mind, we don't get a job. If you don't hold on to Jesus in Jamaica, you don't have a job. You understand? And I grew up amongst some wonderful man and woman called Rasta man and woman. Me not talk these long year Catholic today. Me not talk them. I mean, I care who wants vex. Because I have to speak the truth. It's how I grew up, you know. And those Rasta man and woman, they never threaten no one with fire. If you disagree with them, they say peace and love, brother, peace, and then you go on your way. It was the Christian who were telling that hell for you, and you go burn there, and it shocked me nowadays when we hear Rasta man tell man about fire for you and all of them. That was no Rasta man thing. Those were Catholic, and the Christian them using them, and so this is where we are today. You know, see, and I personally, I don't call upon no our Father, because our parents used to say to us, wait until your father come, I'm going to make him bust your ass here. Anytime we call upon this our Father, punishment we are bringing down for ourselves. You understand? We have to look in ourselves, examine, as I said. Let's take stock, you know, and see what those things bring to us. Look on Jim Jones. Jim Jones bring a whole set of them in the Jonestown and poison them off. In the name of Jesus. And we say in Wacko, do the same thing.
Wake up, wake up.
Yeah, wake up, the wake up, them, you know, see, and I can name you many more. You understand? So it's not like said we are fight against anything. You know, there is no other race. The Buddhist woman or the Indian woman now put out her man in place of Shiva or them thing there. The African woman is the only woman on this planet who dump her man for a fictitious character. And some of you gonna be vexed about it. But this is the reality here. Many of our brothers them is out on the street because them woman put them out for Jesus. And that is a sickness. That is a great sickness. You know? And the ancestor will punish them for it. You have lots of our brothers today can't even go into the bedroom until they go church on Sunday. A wickedness that. I mean, in none of them things that with nobody here. You know, see it. And some people may not like what I'm saying. But Jesus and God is a weapon of mass destruction upon African people. So be it. Voodoo.
Dr. Aboo, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, your initial thoughts on this. Let's go to our brother Leo Muhammad. Rise up, my brother.
Greetings, my sister. Greetings to my brothers. It's yes, you know, it's this is a big subject.
Yes,
this is a massive subject, and it's a subject that really cannot be nutshelled in any way. But as an opening gambit, let me say this. See, beloved family, we are the original people of the earth.
Yes.
Everything originates with us. Unfortunately, we have been so miseducated that we give credit for so many of the systems that we find on this planet. We give credit to others because others have stolen. I think Chancellor Williams said, stolen legacy. And so much of what belongs to the original people has been taken by others, and they put their identity or their stamp on it. And so today we misidentify. I think it's a Caucasian Greek man who is now credited to be the father of medicine. Yet that Greek man went to Egypt and learned medicine from the black man in Africa, in Egypt.
That's right. That's right.
Today, Pythagoras and these boys are given the credit for mathematics and the zero. But that, again, came from Africans, from black people who are the originators of these sciences. The Bible and the Holy Quran and all of the scriptures, even that which is now called Buddhism, that which is called Zoroastrianism, that which is called Shintoism. You mentioned the Japanese earlier, sister. That which is called Christianity, that which is called Judaism, all of it originated from the black man.
That's true.
And our diversity in terms of our understanding of the creator of the heavens and the earth, we recognize that that's our origin, that's who we are. But these systems have been taken by other people and they've put their identity on it. And now today, because of what's happened to us over the 400 years of our enslavement, where we have lost the knowledge of ourselves, we now become Christians and begin worshiping a white Jesus, not understanding that the origin of the story is of a black savior, is of a black people who would go into bondage and be destroyed over a period of time until that black man is resurrected. That's why Jesus is claimed to be the first begotten of the dead, or the first of those who slept. Because in order for the Caucasian, in order for the white man to rule, the original man, the black man, had to be put to sleep. And so we today don't understand that these systems, all of them belong to us, but they've now been perverted. It's like when you look at the continent of Africa. The continent of Africa didn't look the way the continent of Africa looks today until the Berlin Conference, and when it was carved up for the benefit of Europeans. And so today we call ourselves Nigerians, and we call ourselves Kenyans, and we call ourselves, all of these different labels, but all of these labels were given to us by the Caucasian.
That's right.
When in reality, Africa as a continent is the cradle of civilization, and you can find different aspects or elements of civilization on the continent, but today it's still the richest continent on our planet, yet we have the poorest people. Poor in terms of materials. The gold in the earth is not being used by us. The diamonds, the manganese, the plutonium, all of those precious metals are not being extracted and used by us. We are now materially poor, but we've also become poor in terms of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And unfortunately, my dear beloved brothers and sisters, I'm not just talking about those of us who were taken out of Africa and made slaves. I'm talking about our brothers and sisters who remain on the continent. In fact, if the truth be known, many of them today who are practicing so-called African spirituality, many of them today are more backward than even some of us who have been destroyed as a human reality here in the West. Because what's happened is that we've lost that connection between ourselves and the Creator, the real power, and we are now worshiping stones, or we're worshiping trees, or we're worshiping cattle, or we're worshiping things which are made by the Creator, but we're stopping at the things instead of going back to the Creator. Who is the Creator? In the Nation of Islam, we don't believe in a spook God, in some cloud floating in the sky. We say that God is man and man is God. And going back to what you said at the beginning, Sister Shanice, in terms of Imhotep writing on the temples in Karnak and in other places in Egypt, man, know thyself. Because it's the lack of knowledge of self that's hurting us today, because we have lost the idea or the concept that we are in fact God. Man is God. And now specifically, the black man is God. But we have lost that idea. And so now the white man, by the way, the white man is also a god, but the white man is the god of his world. And we are now worshiping the white man as our God because of the subjugation by the white man of the continent and of those of us who were stolen and brought into the diaspora. So now he is giving us his white Jesus. Now he's giving us his white God. Now he's given us a concept of Judaism that many of us have signed up to, even though many of our Israelite brothers and Hebrew brothers don't adhere to that concept now. They're waking up, and many of them are now claiming a black Judaism or a black Israelite philosophy or a black Hebrewism. But nonetheless, what you'll find with most of us today on the planet, we are following somebody else's idea of who God is, rather than recognizing that we are the original man, the original God, and that all of these are our children who have taken what we created and have now bastardized or there's another word I'm trying to use. They have not watered down, but they have corrupted. That's the word. They have now corrupted those principles, because what we have to look for in so-called religion are the immutable laws. We have to look for the principles, the universal principles, and that's why you will find when you go back into the ancient times and you look at all of the systems that were created by the original people, whether we call it Ma'at, which is about balance and reciprocity, then you will find those same universal principles inculcated within the so-called modern religions when you talk about freedom, justice, equality, when you talk about peace, when you talk about love, when you talk about all of these are not different religions, these are not different concepts. They're all coming from the same thing. The religion, the principle or the system by which we should all live is that principle that says, obey the creator. Live upright. So the Rastaman said liberty. He said live upright. He said do good. But these are words that we use. But when you look at our actions and our behavior, quite often what's happened is that we have deviated from those higher principles. When we talk about heaven, I'm not talking about some place up in the sky. That's what people think. But heaven is just a higher level of thinking. It's reaching up into this part of our body, which is it's not an accident that this is called a temple. You could equally call it a mosque. You could equally call it a church, but it's the place where God resides. The scripture says that his throne is on water. That's why our brain swims in that fluid, because that's the water on which the throne sits. And God must occupy this space. This is why it's called a Godhead. But unfortunately, my dear sister, we've been taught religion like children, like cartoon. And most people today, they're very surface in their understanding of what is to be understood about faith and about religion and about, belief. And it's been really reduced into a kind of fairy tale type of thing. And, this is where we get stuck. And this is where we become disempowered, because we're no longer connected to the real source of our power, which is Almighty God, who is the originator of the heavens and the earth.
We will be coming back round again to hear more from you, Brother Leo Muhammad. Thank you very much for that opening and for that very in-depth, pronunciations from your perspective. Most interesting indeed. So we've gone from, the God that resided inside of us and us being, the God inside, to look into something outside of ourselves. And also you've, looked at the historical development of that, but there is so much more. And as you said at the outset, time doesn't permit us really to go as deep into this as we really ought to and need to. I'm going to swing over in just a second to our brother Prophet Kwaku, but let me just have a look at one or two comments in the chat. Rising up, Sweet Lucy Mama and Brother Rick from the Black Acres of the Gambia and family. Great to know that you're locked in. Black Acres of the Gambia, check out their website. They're doing their YouTube channel, rather. Amazing work in the Gambia, and you can follow them on a daily basis like I do to see what's going on next at the Black Acres of the Gambia. Rise yourself up. They've said, I think all religions is controlling and needs to disappear, not doing anything or has done nothing for our people but kept us brainwashed. I certainly agree with that. What do you think, those of you in the chat? And let's see what else we've got. Nubian Spoken Word says, if we are gods, why do we need a leader? Good question there. And Aborigine says, I don't believe in religion of any kind. Pauline saying it's a good show. Dr. D is saying the problem is neither with the Almighty Creator, Oludumare, Allah, God, nor is the problem with the Christ, Jesus, not a white man. The problem lies within the hidden lies in religion. Okay, elaborate a bit more about that. Teddy says, in my house growing up, we had a picture of the white Jesus. How many houses had that? Picture of the white Jesus on the wall, and my little brother took a brown felt tip pen and colored it in. My mum wasn't best pleased at all about that. Reminds me of the story of the little boy who painted Jesus black. But let's go over, please, to our Prophet Kwaku, who I'm sure is going to give us some historical context as well on this whole ideology of religion that we as a people have really embraced since our enslavement in particular. But, you know, it started long before that. Prophet Kwaku, please come in and share with us.
Yes, Otep, and to my sister, my two brothers. You know, the question is Christianity or the worshipping of a white Jesus a weapon of mass destruction? That is the question that you ask, Sister Shanice.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And the answer simply is yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we can find that by studying our story in engagement with Europeans and Arabs, the Abrahamic religions. Let me make it plain and clear. Africans don't have religion. Africans don't deal with religion. Africans deal with spirituality. Complete different concept to religion. In African spirituality, all that you see around us is the manifestation of the creating force of the universe. I'm going to read something to the masses, and I want to listen to this. It says, thus said Ra, Lord of all, Lord of utmost limits, after he had come into being. I am the one who came into being as Kepra. He who comes into being and brings into being, being. When I came into being, being itself came into, listen to them words. When I came into being, being itself came into being. All beings came into being after I came into being. Many were the beings that came forth from my commands. Heaven had not been formed yet, nor Mother Tot been formed yet. I created them, right? And all the creeping things on the earth. I raised them up from the principle, the primordial waters and inert things. I found no place on which to stand. I formed it from the desire in my heart. I laid the foundation through my heart. I created forms of every kind. Many were the forms which issued forth from the commands of my mouth. Not yet had I established show the power and principle of air, nor sent forth Tefnut, the power and principle of moisture. There existed no one who acted together with me. I conceived it in my heart, and there came into being a vast number of forms of divine beings as forms of offspring of forms of their different from them. Now hear the key to this. I came forth from among the plants which I created. And I created all things which creep and crawl and all that exists among them. Then, by the power and principle of light and air, and the power and principle of moisture, through the heavens and the earth were brought into being. By earth and heaven, yeah? By earth and heaven. Asa, Heru, Seth, Aset, Nethet were brought into being from the womb, one after another, and they gave birth to the multitudes in the land. And the reason why I read that out, because that is the oldest written creation story. There's no story older than that. No Taoism, no Hinduism, none of the Ism them. That is the oldest story. And that story was found in the Pret Hem Eru, the book of the coming forth by day, otherwise known as the book of the dead, falsely called. And it was called that because when they raided the graves of the Africans in Kemet, they found a copy of this book inside the coffins of the dead. Every one of them had one. Ordinary or common people, right up to the kings and the nobles. They all had one. See? The Jesus concept that we see, that all four of us here, and many people who's viewing now, were taught or were brain dirty in churches that many of our parents sent us. They never know no better. They were coming out of enslavement, colonialism, and neo-colonialism. When the Europeans and the Arabs went to Africa, read documentations by famous Arabic historians, European historians, and they would tell you the wonder of where they had just visited, how civilized these people them were, or everything that they did had a spiritual aspect to it. There was a program called Africa, the Bible, and the Gun. And this program was narrated by a man called Basil Davison. He was a historian here, a European historian, who he spent a lot of time studying the African history of antiquity. And one of the things he commented in that program was that when the Europeans came to Africa, they realized what the African power base was. And their power base was rooted in their spirituality. So the first thing that they had to do was to destroy their spiritual base so as to take control. When you put up an image of somebody who don't look like you, and you give them that height of creation, that height of being the creator, what you're saying is that person or that entity and that image is your creator. Now, the white man that was painted, that was commissioned by the Pope of the time, I think it was Pope Julius III, I'm not 100% sure on that, don't quote me on that, but it was the Pope at the time, in the 16th century. He told Michelangelo to paint a white Madonna and child. Yeah, in fact, to paint the Trinity. And Michelangelo used his cousin. So it's Michelangelo cousin everybody about her. Now, you don't have to believe me. This information is readily available for people to go and research. But when you do that, we know this from experience. I like to use history and present day circumstances to equate what I'm trying to give to the people. So when we go to Africa, when we go to the Caribbean, we as diasporan Africans are looked at a certain way. But you see, when the white man goes to Africa, he's seen as a god. He is treated completely different than you and I when we come there. The things that Europeans can get away with in Africa, me and you can't get away with it, are in the Caribbean. So that is how the weapon of mass destruction works. Because when they see somebody that look like the image of this picture, and I've witnessed this in Africa, I've witnessed it in the markets when I went to Ghana and all them place there, and them have this white Jesus as God on the minibuses in their cars.
Yeah.
And the pastors perpetuate this nonsense. You understand what I'm saying to you? And so therefore, the weapon of mass destruction is so endemic in the present culture of Africans globally, that when you and I bring forth the information to destabilize their brain, the power of this brain dirtying is so powerful that the people negate what you say. Now, Christianity is a homosexual religion.
True blood.
Built by homosexuals, right?
Really?
For homosexuals. Yes, I said it. Let me repeat myself so you don't misquote me. Christianity is a homosexual religion. Because what? It deal with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Where the woman there? The woman is nowhere to be seen. Why did them leave at the Nicene Conference of Bishop in 325 ADE, after the coming era, that was constructed by Constantine, Emperor Constantine of the Byzantine Empire. Yeah? The Second Roman Empire. Because it was two. One was ruled from Rome, one was ruled from Constantinople, which is today Istanbul. Go doing the research. They had a series of conferences. It was called the Nicaea Conference of Bishops. And they got together all these bishops and different people who said they are Christian or whatever it was. It wasn't even called Christianity at the time. Yeah? Because Christianity came about 200 years after the death of the supposed Yeshua ben Pandera. Because there was no J in Hebrew. His name wasn't Jesus. It's Yeshua. So you just know that. When them have that conference, there was a bishop that didn't agree with the Trinity story, the Mary and Jesus story, and Joseph and all them something there, right? Pope Maurice was Bishop Maurice was a black man.
Yeah, black
right?
saint.
They got rid of him. They got rid of him because he wouldn't go along with the story. Because I said, no, it don't go like that. You understand what I'm saying to you? So as long as we keep up this mysticism, yeah, as long as we hold on to and I know what my brother Leo is saying in terms of, you know, these are the roots, and what he's saying is very true. These are the roots where they come from. But when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, brought Islam to the Arabs, he needed to bring it in the form that he did, because they were barbarous, and he needed to get them out of the way they were. When they, so much so that the same Arab today, them who hold on to it, wanted to kill him, and he must run out what them call Medina at the time, Mecca, and tell him follow them, go to Abyssinia, where the king practiced the all-time religion. Where was Abyssinia? In what we call present day Ethiopia. Otherwise, back in them, they call it Kush, the Nile Valley. Again, back to the Nile Valley. You understand me? So why would you want, it's like you're a sound man and you hear a tune, you say it sound like this other tune. You want the original tune. You don't want the carbon copy. You want the original. You understand me? So our people are in a situation where certain of these doctrines has helped them to clean up their lives. So brothers like Leo and sisters who embrace Islam through the Nation of Islam, it's helped to clean up their lifestyle. Yeah, they're very disciplined, and we respect how they move. But we're ever evolving. Remember, in the piece that I read earlier, it said, I formed it out of being Kepra. Kepra means to reborn. This is where Christians get the concept of born again from. They get it from the Africans in the Nile Delta, in the Nile Valley. We spoke about Imhotep earlier, and my brother mentioned Imhotep, the first world multi-genius. The person who you got to say the Hippocratic Oath about. They say, you swear to Esculapius. That's what the Greeks them they call it. You understand what I say?
Kwaku, so we're going to come back round again. I tell you, you're bringing some teachings, you're bringing some knowledge, and we respect that, my brother. But we're going to go around, you know, and bring in some of the comments as well from our audience. I hope you're okay with that, my brother. And
I'm fine with it, but you have to let me just land this.
Go on, land, my brother.
Let me land.
But you're going to take off again in a little while, yes? Yeah, so.
Yeah, I am. But I'm going to bring something to it. There was one of the kings of ancient Kemet was a man they called the heretic. Yeah, Akhenaton. He was the first to come with the concept. Where they say he was the first, but he wasn't actually. But in terms of history and things like that for the Europeans and the rest of it, he was the one that came up with the concept of monotheism. That is the concept of one creator. But the Africans in the Nile Valley always had that concept of the one creator. What they also had was that creator created other entities to do certain things. So when brother was talking about worshiping stones and trees, Africans don't worship stones. We don't worship trees. What we do, we respect that the creator energy is in that particular stone, gold, silver. The creator is in that tree. We never just go and chop tree down for sake. We did a ceremony. We asked the tree permission because we need to use you. You understand me? You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I say Africans dealt with spirituality, not religion. Okay.
Hotep, rise up, Prophet Kwaku. Wow, again, you covered, you know, so much knowledge and so much information in that presentation there. Thank you so much for that. And, you know, I've been seeing and noting in my studies as well, and quite rightly, as you said, in terms of the oldest written texts, you know, there's a lot of information to confirm that in the northeastern part of Africa, there was a huge amount of written text that actually confirm all of what you're saying. But I also note and have to give credit and respect to the oral traditions as well in Africa and the oral stories that came down from the ancient times of old as well. And some of these cultures would include, for example, the Akan culture that talked about Nyakompong, who for them was the true great Nyami, who was personified, you know, by the sun. And we have to recognize as well, you know, the Benin Empire as well and kingdom, and the oral stories that came down to them as well, and the voodoo priests that they had during those times there. And they said, you know, that the house of God, when they were up, where's the house of God? They said the house of God can't hold their God because their God is all around them. Their God, you know, it cannot live in a mere house made by men, you know. So they recognized as well, they had this idea of the God being, you know, just omniscient. And we had the Zambezi and Mugumbu people as well. They recognized the supreme God as the creator, who they called the Bakongo. Oh no, it's the Bakongo people. that recognize the Zambi, Pungu as their god, the people in the Congo. And then there was the Mwari, god Mwari, that the Shona people recognize as well, that goes back to ancient times as well. So they were in the southern part of Africa. So in different parts of Africa, you know, they seem to have these similar stories. In all of them, you find the supreme God. They recognize as a supreme creator. They, like Mwari, they recognize as the Father, Mother, and Son. You know, so we have the Trinity concept there as well. Mwari was seen as the supreme being above all men and nature. So there's the idea as well of the creator in good and evil, who was the source of life. And the Igbos, they recognize as their supreme god, Chukwu. And there's so many more. I even came across a god by the name of Sambo, which is a beautiful story. And the god Sambo recognized his people, the Negas, as the chosen people. A phenomenal story from out of Africa there as well. And I could see from that story how the Europeans had actually corrupted the name Sambo and brought it down to a name of ridicule, and how they corrupted from Nega, God's chosen people, to call us the N-word as well. Little did we know that when they were teasing us and trying to embarrass us and call us the Sambo and the N-word, they were actually calling us God and God's chosen people. But that's a whole nother story. So we can see, you know, in different parts of Africa, the concept of the supreme gods, you know, the Trinity story, the Immaculate Conception stories and all of that. Even in Northeast Africa as well, with also Aset and Huru, we can see the Immaculate Conception story there as well. So, you know, all of these kind of stories or mysteries, or, you know, they came from Africa indeed, and found their way into the Bible. But, you know, back then, when we as Africans, you know, had these belief systems, you know, it empowered us as a people, because, you know, our gods, you know, would have looked like us, or our deities would have looked like us, or our belief or our imagination into the great being, you know, would have been at one with us. So it was empowering us. And thank you for what you've read. I've got a little something that I want to read here. And it came at a time after about 400 years. No, it was during our time of enslavement, or just after our time of enslavement. Sorry, I'm going to look at the date of the letter, actually. And it was a letter that was written to the missionaries by Leopold, King Leopold II of Belgium. Okay. And, you know, this religion had come a long way by then. You know, like I said, it came out of Africa. It went through all the period that you was talking about, Brother Kwaku, you know, Constantine, when there was a fight between, you know, the Africans at that time who had, you know, their version of Christianity, and the Greeks and the Romans who wanted to take over, you know, the African Christianity, and were killing out all of the African saints, murdering them to take it over, because they wanted to put themselves, you know, in the place of the gods, etc. But, you know, so it came all the way down the line through the years of enslavement. I'm jumping centuries now to 1831, when this is like during the days of colonialism now. Okay, and now King Leopold II, he wrote this letter. I can't read all of it because it's quite long, but this letter was written by him to his Belgian missionaries in Africa. And let me give you a gist of what he was telling them that their mission was in Africa. For those who haven't heard it, you'll find it very, very enlightening indeed. Now, he was writing this to all the reverends, all the pastors, all the fathers, all the priests, all of the missionaries that went down to Africa. And he was saying that your task in Africa is a very delicate one, and it requires much tact, he was saying to them. We want you to go and evangelize, yes, but your evangelism must be to inspire, above all, Belgium's interest. He said that your principal objective in your mission in the Congo is never to teach the N-word, that's us Africans, to know God. This they know already. They speak and submit to a Mungu and a Zambi and Nzungumba and what else they name. These are the different names for God that he's saying that we had. He said they know, you know, not to kill, not to sleep with somebody else's wife, not to lie, and it's all in, you know, they know all of that. And you, he said, as missionaries, have to have the courage to admit it. But you, he was telling them, your mission is greater than that. Your task is to ensure the administration and the industrialization, which is going to be in the interest of Belgium. We want you to go and interpret the gospel to the Africans in such a way that it protects our interest in that part of the world. He says, we want you to keep the Africans uninterested, in the wealth that lies underneath the ground. We want you to keep them uninterested because we want to protect our interests. And he said, your knowledge of the gospel will allow you to find texts ordering and encouraging your followers to love poverty. So, for example, like, happier are the poor because they will inherit their heaven. And it's very difficult for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. He said, you have to detach them, and make them want to disrespect everything that gives them courage to affront us. He said, I make reference to their mystic system and their war fetish, their warfare protection. He said, they pretend that they don't want to abandon it, but he said, you have to do everything in your power to make it disappear. He said, your action will be directed essentially to the younger ones, for they won't revolt when you are making the recommendation to it. The children have to learn to obey what the missionary commands, who is the father of their soul. You must singularly insist on their total submission and obedience. Avoid developing the spirit in the schools. Teach the students, he was saying to them, to read, but not to reason. And he goes on with all of these instructions and he says, get them to recite every day. Happier are those who are weeping because the kingdom of God is for them. Convert always the blacks by using the whip. Get them to sing every day. It's impossible for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. Make them pay taxes. Never, ever, he said, make the N-word, that's us as Africans, become rich. And there's so much more in this letter, my people. Now, this letter was found in a Bible that an African bought from a missionary. They had forgotten to take that letter out. And I'm telling you, when you read the whole letter, it really brings to life, family, the works that the missionaries were doing in Africa. And until this day, they're still getting us to recite some of those same scriptures, and many of us are throwing away and are uninterested in riches, and we don't know why. This is because it's been indoctrinated into us not to pay any interest in the riches that lay in the ground in our land, that we must enjoy weeping, that we must look forward to our heaven in the afterlife while they enjoy their heaven here, that we must endure the suffering, even if they whip us, we turn the other cheek so they can whip us again. So this submissiveness is not by accident. But let me tell you this before I go around the group again, that family, there were some of our people as Africans who were kidnapped and taken abroad to Jamaica, to Haiti, to Brazil, who held on to their African spirituality. And we can see from the history, my family, that it's in those instances where our people had held on to their African spirituality that they were able to fight off and beat the strongest European armies in the world. So, for example, Nanny of the Maroon, they fought for decades against the British armies, and those British armies were unable to beat Nanny of the Maroons and her followers because they were doing the ceremonies, the African voodoo ceremonies, and it made them fearless. And this is what, Leopold was telling the missionaries that they needed to knock out of us. And we had a man called Bookman Dotty who left Jamaica and went to Haiti, and he brought the African voodoo with him to Haiti, and they had their voodoo ceremony back in 1780 something. I can't remember the exact date. And as a
1791.
1791. And
1791.
thank you very much, Prophet Kweku. And as a result of that voodoo ceremony, the people, they were energized, they were encouraged, they were fearless, and they beat the French army, they beat the Spanish army, they beat the British army. Such is the strength and the power that the Africans had when they had found their African spirituality. So when he was writing that letter, he was very aware of the history and the powers that we got from our Africanness. And he said that they had to make every effort to whip this out of us. And they also focused their attention on the children. And remember, there was mass genocide across the land, mass genocide. They were wiping out the adults with the knowledge of the African mystery systems and the knowledge of the African ceremonies. And they were taking in some of the children and putting them in missionary schools. And then they were teaching the children to worship them, to bow down to their priests, their missionaries, and to see them and their God in their image. All by design. So, we need to look at our history of when we were in our most powerful state, and the God we was worshiping, or the belief system that we have, or whatever we call it, the spirituality, and that those ceremonies was able to invigorate in us so that we could beat some of the most equipped and well-resourced armies of the day. Yeah. So they deliberately, and as we can see from that letter, wanted to ensure that we no longer held on to those powers. I would say we need to find back those powers again. Dr. Aboo, let me bring you in and go around the panel again, my brother. Rise up. Dr. Aboo. Voodoo.
Let's put away the book then. Let's talk now in a more reality. Yeah. If I take a seed and go outside and plant it, it will grow. Just like I take my seed and plant it in the woman. The woman is the representation on this planet. She is Earth representation. Understand? There's nothing more that can mimic the macro like that micro. Nothing else. On all the religion them that came, put her in a kind of third-class citizenship. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just looking. Quaker said that Christianity is homosexuality, and I agree with him, because Christianity is European cultural aggression. That is what they spread around the world. You understand? Remember, they tell you that the hand that rocked the cradle, what? Ruled the world. Whose hand that rocked the cradle? The woman. We lost it, blood. We lost it. We get up every day and talk about, the father this, the father that, and we never say the mother. And we shut down these things. And just the other day, these European women get the rights to exist as women. Allow me to tell. This is not Africa. This is European, and these are the same people who are set with examination, who are certify us, and all of these things. Listen, I'm telling you, if we does not put our woman back into their rightful place, we'll never have no peace on this earth, blood. The whole problem is, what we have got through as a people, we don't know ourselves. Because if we didn't know ourselves, we'd have the earth rightfully representative, a face every day. You understand? But because a lot of us grew up on this European male chauvinistic behavior. We think a woman places in the kitchen and all of these things. Me not them thing the blood. You see, these poly-religion, that's what we call them, because politics mixed with that, you're saying the damn thing. You know, see? And we get lost in these things. And this is where we are today. We get confused and we now realize that the only thing that represents this planet Earth, Earth is the woman. Because that's the only thing that can manipulate or do what the land out there do, is only the woman. Me not talk about them little incubator man what them are create nowadays and about them can. Me not in them thing the blood. You understand? And this is where we are today. You know, see, I know not no religion or anything like that. Why did Islam come? Islam came because they were abusing the woman. That is why it came. They were burying the girl child in the sand. So look at Batman down at Arabia there. You understand? That's what they were doing. You know, taking away our young men out of Africa, cutting off their balls and all of them things that they can do. Same frigging thing are going today. I would not realize in these things, blood. You know, see, one can't show me certain things. You know, see, and then I have to just follow that. You know, look at nature. Look for nature. Yeah, look for nature. And see how it manifests itself in a certain way. But you see, two certain things is not in our you know those papers that we get a masters from, our bachelors, those people things are not in those books. And it's not a damn idiot to run around the place, but I truth me I tell you. You know, see, not nobody on them education and them religion and thing, man. It's a damn idiot. We are running on with something that the slave master give us and we think that we're better than even we mother. Me say man out there, he said what them have better than even their mother. You know, see, you have mothers out there who are telling children that them love them more than Jesus. Think about it. You understand? No, I tell them children that they love Jesus more than them.
That's the way around.
You understand me? That is a set of people that is out of their mind, and that is what they done to us. When they invade us, you understand? What they do, they take away the man and they kill them, and then bring the woman them amongst themselves and brainwash them. So a lot of these women doesn't even know the truthful place right now. I truth me I tell the blood. You understand? Because they still follow the old Abrahamic Bible thing, or you cause him Adam for that, or you cause Samson for last that, and you don't see where going. You don't see what's going on. But nature out there, the right, yeah, look on it, you know, and I ignore what you see. Imagine if we write and manifest in front of it and we ignore it, and all we do, we are looking at these bloody books. Why? Matthew did say that Fred Matthew, I don't know that fella. I don't know none of them. You know, I know Mother B around the corner. As I said before, I grew up in a Jamaica where I see a woman coming out of the hills, words coming out of their mouth, but they never get it on a telephone or anything. It comes to them from a spiritual, from the womb. That womb represents the planet, and I don't carry it. My mother carry it, and my sister and all of those. And until we go back to that principle and understand that, we don't have no chance higher. We don't have chance because Reverend that, and the nature put Reverend that there so. Pastor that and the nature put him there. And the system blood. You know, see, so all of these, if you look at all of these imams and all of these preachers and all of them were dressed up in the woman's frock and I pretend like said they were a woman. You have to be careful here. You know, see, and find the damn rightful place. You understand? As I said, Dr. Ben said, heaven is between an African woman leg. You know, see, so when we are talking about our Father who art in heaven, no, our Father who art with our mother, and that me a look on blood, and I know in a nobody, and I not apologize to nobody. You know, the reason why I don't go on the Christian bus, because it have no friggin' emotion. Simple as that. Voodoo.
Voodoo, rise up, Dr. Aboo. Yes, heaven is between a black woman's leg, the African woman's legs. I like that. rise up, Dr. Aboo, for that voodoo talk there. Let's go over to our brother Leo Muhammad, and then afterwards, there's lots of comments in the chat. Panel members, if you want to pick up on any of the points that have been made or questions that are asked in the chat, please feel free to do so as part of your presentation or commentary on this topic. Brother Leo, over to you, my brother.
Greetings once again, family. What I love about this, what I love about this particular episode of your show, my dear sister, is the level of discussion is deep, and we've gone now beneath the surface of things, and we're really beginning to look deeper into this question, especially from a humanity point of view, as opposed to what normally passes for, this discussion, which is something out in the clouds, in the sky, whatever. We're talking about people here. And I will say this: it may appear on the surface that there's some type of disagreement here between what we're all saying, but from my perspective, I hear everybody speaking the exact same language. There may be different ways of saying what we're saying, but from my perspective, I hear the exact same language. And I really love the fact that my brother Aboo brought in the principle and the aspect of the woman. And by the way, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that heaven lies at the foot of woman. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that there is no heaven for man that is not found in the woman. The universe that we all live in and come out of is never referred to in masculine terms. It's always she. The universe is always feminine. The planet that we all come out of is called Mother Earth. It's never Father Earth, it's always Mother Earth, because it's only Mother who gives birth. And yeah, we can talk all day long about this great man and that great man and this great prophet and this great sage or whatever, but every single one of us came out of the womb of the woman. In the teachings of the Muslim Elijah Muhammad, we're taught that the secret of God himself is wrapped up in the woman. And so this is why I love the conversation, because, and again, I don't dispute what Brother Kwaku says. It is homosexuality. Because if you go back again, brother went back to Egypt, when you look at all of the images and the depictions, you will always see the woman and the child. But it's only European concept of these religions that all of a sudden there's no woman no longer, and it's the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. And so, of course, if you look at the Catholic Church and all of the homosexuality that goes on there, if you look at this idea and this concept of celibacy, in the Holy Quran, it says that I did not give you, this is God talking, I did not give you that. I did not create monks and celibate men who will negate women and ultimately turn to themselves or turn to another man or even turn to animals or cats, dogs, and you wouldn't feel safe with them, with your goldfish in the room, because it's an unnatural state for a man to be without a woman. In the nation, we're taught that when a man is without a woman, that man is handicapped. And when the woman is without the man, she is handicapped. We are created to fit together, to go together. So, beloved, I just wanted to deal a little bit with some of the history of, say, for instance, Islam. Because there was a black man who is very famous in the history of the Islam that comes out of Arabia. That black man's name is Bilal. And that black man was an Abyssinian, or what they call an Ethiopian, or as Brother Kwaku said, a Cushite. But that black man, what he heard was that this man in the Arabian Peninsula, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he heard that this man was in the Arabian Peninsula teaching the old time religion. See, the Arabs who it was given to, they didn't know that religion. This was brand new to them 1400 years ago. But the black man in Africa already knew the religion, because it wasn't so much a religion to him as in something of rote, but it was something that was his nature, that was his very character. Because once again, what does Islam mean? It simply means peace. There's no such thing as Mohammedanism. That's something that the European has made up to try to discredit Islam, which is peace, which is the condition of the universal order. Peace. Peace is the thing that you and I are seeking in our life. We want peace between our husband and wife. We want peace between us and our children. We want peace. If we're going to drive up the motorway, up the M1, we want a peaceful ride. We don't want something that's going to disturb us and rattle our bones so that when we get to our destination, all we want to do is sleep for 24 hours. Peace. And that's what that religion is. And that's the religion that was from the very beginning of creation. This is not a religion named after a man like Zoroastrianism or Buddhism or Judaism or Christianity. Is supposed to be after Christ. And the man who lived 2,000 years ago, whether we call him Jesus, we know that the language English didn't exist and there was no J. So yeah, we can say Yeshua. In Islam, he's called Isa. But irrespective of the name, the fact is that there was a man who lived 2,000 years ago, but he was a prototype of one who is coming at the end of this world, the white man's world, who is the Christ. And what does Christ mean? Christ is not a surname. Christ means one who is anointed with power from the Creator to crush the wicked. And that's the one that we're talking about today, who is the black man on scene today, who is ending this white man's world. But my point is this, beloved family. The enemy, he can't come in his own rights. He has to come disguised as us. That's what it's called the wolf in sheep's clothing. So he comes disguised as an angel of light, pretending to be a righteous or a holy man, when in reality he is the manifestation, the personification of pure evil. Because the devil or Satan is not found under the ground, beloved, with a pitchfork and a tail and a red skin and two horns. He wears a pinstripe suit. He works in the city of London. He operates out of Number 10. He operates out of Washington. He operates out of Milan and Paris. The devil is real. These individuals, going all the way back to Constantine, who has already been mentioned, it was Constantine at that Nicene conference, the Roman emperor, who held up a sword and held the sword by its blade upside down and said, with this sign, we do conquer. That was the first cross. And that was a deliberate act where they planned to use something called Christianity to subjugate the planet. And in particular, the original people, the black man and the black woman, or the African, to use that terminology. And so in my closing, beloved, yes, we as Africans have always known that Almighty God is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, because he does occupy all of the realms of the universe. But he also is in the individual. And unfortunately, what happened to many of our African brothers and sisters is that we deviated away from that understanding of who we are. The enemy could never have come in and done what he did to us if we were in our right condition and in our right state. And we did go down into a kind of degeneration away from our knowledge of God and our adherence to God and our submission to the one God. And Akhenaten wasn't the originator of that concept of the one God. That was, like I said, we got history that goes back into the trillions of years. And we're taught that we first went into what's today called Africa, that part of Africa, just 50,000 years ago. The Egypt that we keep talking about is just at the most 5 or 10,000 years ago, but 50,000 years ago was when we first went down into what we call today Central Africa or Western Africa and Eastern Africa. But we occupied the entire planet, and the center of the planet is that which they call today the Middle East, which was a part of Africa. That's North Africa. That's a part of the planet that we originated civilization. But my point is, my dear family, you know, we've been writing scripts for thousands and thousands of years, long before. And you know, what my brother Kwaku says is like the first manuscript or the first. Oh, beloved, we got stuff more ancient than that. But the reality is that whenever you study all of these manuscripts, you'll find that the immutable laws, the principles, run through all of them. And that's what the enemy has rode in on and used as a means of using our own. It's just like how David used Goliath's sword to cut off Goliath's own head. The enemy has actually used some of our own principles against us. Why? Because we forgot those principles. And somebody in the chat asked a question, something along the lines of, if we are gods, why do we need a leader? And I will just close on that. See, beloved family, the human being is not like the horse or the donkey or the camel or any of the wild beasts. The wild beasts can be born today, right now, this minute. And within a few minutes, that beast can be up and running and foraging and trying to survive in the wild. But the human baby, even if that baby is born within the confines of a palace with the best carpet and the best furnishings and the most comfort and luxury, that baby, without the guidance of a mother or a father or some adult to guide that life, that baby will perish right there where it's left. The human being is always got to have leadership, has always got to have right guidance, has always got to have that life stewarded in order that that human being can come into knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. It doesn't happen by osmosis. We are born with an inherent knowledge. Why the term intuition, an inner teacher. We have an inner teacher, but unless I'll say it like this: the law of the universe says, the first law of the universe says, the first law of the universe is motion. The second law of the universe is discipline. The third law of the universe says a body at rest remains at rest until acted upon by an external force. So we got that inherent knowledge, wisdom, and understanding inside of us, but it has to be activated by an outside element that has to touch it. Hence why in the school, and the word school, the reason why you say a school of fish is because when you observe the fish, you see that the fish swim in schools, and the lead fish, wherever the lead fish turns, the other fish follow. Well, school is the same principle. Why we have schools? Because in the school, you got a headmaster or a headmistress or a teacher. Somebody always has to be at the front of the human being to give guidance. Where we reject leadership, that's where we absolutely go blind, because you need to have right guidance as a human being. That's just the way God created us. It doesn't happen by osmosis. We can't just lead ourselves in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. There comes a point where you have enough now where you can look to the leader within. But in order to get there, we need guidance, which is why in all major African traditions, you will see that it's old men for counsel, young men for war. You always would have a council of elders that the young would consult in order for them to know. That's why you have rites of passage. The youth cannot do their own rites of passage. The elders have to show them how they transition from youth into elder. What's happened today is that link has been severed. And so now our young people are guiding themselves. Now it's their peer groups that they're following. There's no leadership. There's no longer any more of that natural order that God put in place. Hence why we're in the condition and in the trouble that we're in as a people. And so we have to get back. We have to go back into that system of understanding that there is a Godhead, and that we're connected to that Godhead. And as long as we remain severed or separated from that Godhead, from that foundation, then we will never ever be able to take back our rightful place as earth rightful rulers. Thank you. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you so much, Brother Leo. It makes a huge amount of sense indeed. And it's important for us to have these discussions and to share our knowledge and, our research and information and, the perspectives from which we're coming from. And I just want to share a little something else as well. And Brother Quaker's already touched on this and might want to elaborate on it a bit more. Because he went back and talked about, the Holy Trinity that existed during in the northeastern part of Africa in a place called Egypt. And we've got here, that they had their Holy Trinity that went by the name of Osor, Oset, and Heru, the Father, the Mother, and the Son. So, that's a really early Trinity that goes back about 5,000 years. But we take on board what you're saying, my brother Leo Muhammad. African history goes back way beyond that. In fact, in the southern part of Africa, when they was doing some excavations, they actually found an ankh, and they found an Osiris bird. A model of an Osiris bird, which we've always associated the ankh and the bird with with Egypt. Well, this was dated over 100,000 years ago, and so as we can see from that alone, that the symbols that we use as part of our ceremonies, or that was used back then as part of the ceremonies, was being used, during a much earlier period from the southern part of Africa, which suggests that was taken from South Africa up to the northern parts of Africa. But anyway, a huge amount of more research needs to be done around that. But what I can see from the Holy Trinity, Osor, Oset, and Heru, the Father, Mother, and Son, is that at a later period, in the Ptolemaic period, around about 664 to 30 BC, the Egyptian gods were actually plagiarized by the Greeks. And what they did is they turned our Osor, Oset, and Heru and gave them these alternative names and claimed them for their own gods. So Osor became Osiris, Oset became Isis, and Heru became Horus. And the Greeks adopted Osiris, Isis, and Horus as their gods, basically just teething the whole African, North Egyptian concept there. They took it for themselves because they didn't have a God concept or anything like that, because remember, they were just on the verge of being civilized then. They were learning at the feet of the Africans at this time, but they knew enough that by this point that they wanted their own gods to worship. And then after the Greeks came the Romans, and the Romans adapted, the Greek gods to their own gods and called them Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. And we can see where the Black Madonna that had existed during the African time turning from black to white. So the Black Madonna, the mother and child, became Mary and Jesus and went from black to white. So, we can actually trace through the history, how those African deities, became Egyptian gods and Roman, religious idols that, we've still embraced until today. But if we go back into the history, we can see over the hundreds of years, the development of, from the African deity through to the Greeks gods. I mean, the Africans, we even have the names of the Africans that gave the Greeks their gods and named them as well, and how they named them. And I've actually got some notes of that here. And apparently the Greeks had been begging the Africans for decades to give them their own gods, give them their own gods. And the Africans were refusing to do so, refusing to do so. And it got to the point where the Greeks then started murdering a lot of the African bishops and the religious groups and sects around at that time. And then there was this group that called the Mikites, who decided that rather than be worshipped, they would give the Greeks an African spiritual god. And there was the bull called Apis, and we can do the research on Apis the bull, and our Osor, who they confused that together with Osiris. They combined the two, and from the two, they created a new name for the Ptolemy region named Serapis, Christos. Serapis Christos. And if you look at the images of Serapis Christos, you will begin to see the European image that is not too dissimilar from the image of Jesus coming through. So it was the Mikites, according to this piece of research here, that actually gave them the godly name also of Satar, meaning he is the savior of Egypt. And we know with the Greeks, ultimately, they began to take over that region as well. And they started, as they got more powerful, as they do, you know, they come in, learn at the feet, come in, you know, as obedient students, wanting to share, wanting to have a piece of the land. And then when they develop in power, what do? They start taking over. They started demanding that Egypt, their fathers, that Egypt start to worship Serapis. This is what they were demanding of the Egyptians. So there's that whole period when there was this power struggle, so to speak, between, you know, those who were revering the ancient Egyptian belief system, and you know, when the Greeks started becoming more powerful and started demanding that we worship their gods, and there was a huge amount of killing, a huge amount of murder to try and put this in place. Look up Serapis Christos, okay, a Serapis Christos. Look that up. It's a Greco-Egyptian god. And this is when it was going from Egyptian to Greek. Then it went from Greeks to Roman and to what it is today. But let me leave that there and leave you to do more research on that because, you know, there's huge amounts that we don't have the time to go into, but maybe Prophet Kwaku, you might pick up on some of that, or, you know, feel free to take the discussion in the direction that you want to take it, my brother. Over to you, Prophet Kwaku.
Yes, Otep. Thank you for all the information that's been disseminated by yourself and my two brothers. The name of the man that Brother Leo was talking about, who was the black man who heard Prophet Muhammad preaching the old time doctrine, his name was Bilal. His name was Haksura ibn Bilal Rahab. And he was enslaved by the Arabs. And it was the Prophet that freed him. That's the history of that relationship, and first and foremost. And so he was the chosen person that the Prophet wanted to take over after the Prophet's death, but he refused to take that leadership. Hence, what happened is there was a war between Omar and Ali. And we got all this way you got all the Sunni business and all them something. I just thought that information was necessary because brother gave the name, yeah. And also, when you spoke earlier, Sister Shanice, when you spoke about the Haitian Revolution, it was in August the 14th was the night that Bookman did the prayer. And what was significant about that prayer was that he said to throw away the image of the white man's God. That was specific about that prayer. He said, throw away the image of the white man God, because his God is unjust and wills him to do wickedness, but embrace our God who wills us for vengeance. Bookman Duty, 14th of August. And on the 23rd of August, the uprising started. That was 1791. What's interesting about that revolution was that the name that permeates in terms of historical European data is Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint Louverture was a brilliant general, but he had whititis. Yeah, he was another one that was raised in that old kind of Christian kind of thing, and he thought that, you know, the Europeans, if you show them that we are good as them and we can defeat them, we can work with them. Hence why he ended up being kidnapped, taken back to France, and he died in a dungeon. What they don't tell you about is Jean-Jacques Dessalines, the one that took the Haitian Revolution to its pinnacle in 1804, when they were declared independent by themselves. People can do their own research, on that. I just want to go back to this whole stuff about Kemet, because you see, when you Africate yourself, you don't use certain terminologies. When I use Egypt, I'm talking about Romans, Arabs. When I talk about Kemet, I'm talking about when the Africans controlled it. So the Africans controlled Kemet, but the Kemetians tell you that we came from the south, at the foothills of the mountain of the moon, where God Happy resides. They call God Happy the Nile. The Nile is what they call God Happy. The mountain of the moon was Kilimanjaro. Yeah? And so the Africans in Kemet was quite clear about where they came from. They came from the south. Now, I hear this trillions of years and stuff like that in terms of, yes, we have got that oral issue, but if you heard what I said earlier, I said the oldest known written documentations, writings, not anks and things that we find in the ground. We can do, that kind of carbon dating to date them, but we're talking about when human beings started to write down what was in their minds, or their concept of how the earth was, how it was created, and how we evolved. The oldest writings are those papyrus writings and writings that they found in an empire before Kemet called Tarseti. That was 200 years before the first Kemetian empire. But they were the same people. And if you remember, I said the Nile Valley, which stretches from Kilimanjaro right up to the Mediterranean. That's where the Nile flows. 4,150 miles long, from south to north. Yeah, and so it's important that we keep it with the data that we know we have. There may be old data. If it's found, then we'll be Africated again. But as what we know, the information that is there already, that is the information. The question still is the worshipping of a European deity a weapon of mass destruction? And I repeat again, most definitely it is. Because when you look, and it was mentioned earlier about with the letter that you read from Leopold, I know that letter well. And for benefit of people, you can just go on the internet and tap in King Leopold's letter, and it will come up. Anything you want to, anything that we are saying here, you can find it on the internet if you want to look for it. You find what you look for. So if you're just looking for dance and all that thing, that's all you're going to see. Yeah. So there's nothing that any one of the four of us are saying here that no other individual can't find out for themselves. The information is there. When I said earlier that Christianity is a home, in fact, the Abrahamic religions are, because Islam believes in the story of the Jesus Christ. They believe in it. But at that Nicene conference, a significant thing happened. They left out the book of Mary. Because there's a book of Mary, If you study the Apocryphas of the Bible. There's a book of Mary, a book of Barnabas, yeah, supposed Yeshua brother. There was a whole load of books they left out. You don't leave things out unless you're making it for a specific reason, and that's the control. I'm going to read something. It says, following the footsteps of the ancestors, for the mind is trained through knowledge. Behold, their words endure in books. Open them and read them. Follow their wise counsel, for one who is taught becomes skilled. Another thing is to speak truth in your house, that the princes of the earth may respect you. Righteousness is fitting for a ruler, for it is the front of the house that inspires respect in the back. And these are words from the book of the coming forth by day. The Pret em Eru. This is what Africans wrote down. We look, this whole story about Moses, and Moses came with the 10 commandments. Moses came with 10 of the 42 confessions. That's right. Of Annie. Yeah. So why did Moses run out of Egypt? Because he committed murder. So there was murder before Moses got Mount Sinai. There was a law against it. So these are just mysticisms. These are just
because of time, my brother, I'll have to ask you to wrap up. We are 10 minutes away from the top of the
like
hour.
The way you cut my time, do you know, sis? Man, I could tell you life from here, you know. I like it, you know. I like it. Oh, you cut my time.
I'll take another couple of minutes, but we're 10 minutes away from the top of the hour.
All right, well, give me 2 more minutes. We'll be done with me, I say.
Yes, my brother.
So, before the arrival of Europeans with what we know present day, the King James version of the Bible, and it's a version, there's 100 and odd different versions. It's the King James version they came with, yeah? The Africans had been decimated on the eastern part of Africa. The Akans, the Yorubas, and even the Dogons, when you hear their story, they say they came from the east. Because when the Africans were attacked in Kemet, the priest had to run away. And so they moved to the western part of Africa. And you can trace it in their fables when they speak. So that's why some of what they do is quite similar, because they took the secrets of the ancients with them. And so in closing, in their Bible, I'm going to use their Bible to beat them with. It said, seek ye the truth, and the truth will set you free. It also says, seek ye knowledge, but seek ye insight to knowledge. So once you learn something, it doesn't mean that's the totality of what you know. You need to dissect it. You need to break it down, go into it, and so that you can affricate yourself about what you have just learned. Because knowledge is definitely power. And so worshiping anything that's outside of yourself. How can I worship something that don't look like my mother?
And let's leave it there. That is a brilliant question. How can we worship anything that doesn't look like us, that is outside of ourselves? And I think that's something to ponder over. A few people in the comments in the chat are asking, where do we go from here? So, you know, we've talked about the history. We've talked about, you know, the origins of Christianity and the other religions, the religions that we had pre-Jesus, pre-Allah, etc. You know, people are saying, where do we go from here? Let's see if we've got time to come back round again and maybe even come back to you again on this, Prophet Kwaku. Dr.
Maybe you should start with me.
Go on, 1 minute. Go on, Kwaku. Dr. Aboo as well.
Where do we go from here?
Yes, what is the advice? Because, you know, a huge amount of information we've just put on the table for our brothers and sisters to go and do more research. You know, there should be enough evidence from the presentations today to make it absolutely clear that, you know, the Christianity religion is a plagiarized one, plagiarized from, you know, African systems. Where do we go from here? What advice do you give our brothers and sisters, my brother?
The first thing is to study our story. Those of us who are Africans, who are the kidnapped people, those of us in the diaspora who has been open to these various doctrines, we must seek insight to them. Study the revolution of Haiti. Study the revolution of Brazil, Colombo, in 1605 to 1694. Study these things and study the people who were the leaders. Study Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Bookman Dutte, Makandal, Queen Nani. Study these people. Then study the great civilizations of antiquity.
Well, maybe we'll come to that next strong. Some of those great civilizations of antiquity.
And what do you find?
We're gonna have to leave it here, my brother.
I know, but what you find in those civilizations, yeah, what you find key was they were dealing with African spirituality.
Rise up,
that's
rise
what
up.
made them great. And then study the fall of those civilizations, and you'll see what came to destroy them.
As you're hearing, Prophet Kwaku has so much to give. Prophet Kwaku, next strong, we are going to come again. Dr. Aboo, where do we go from here? 500 years of indoctrination, you know, leaving us with a colonized mindset. They've colonized everything, colonized the image of our God, colonized our culture, colonized, you know, our economic systems, everything. Where do we go from here, Dr. Aboo?
Put our woman them back in the rightful place.
Voodoo.
When we were dealing with Ma's son, before these Mason and these Parson come, we didn't have better. You see, and we have to study Egypt, because Egypt is where all the corruption start from too. You understand? You know, where do we go from here? Well, my woman is in the hospital right now. And if me go up there and she tell me that she find Jesus, me come home and find my bloody bag. Voodoo.
Voodoo. Rise up, Dr. Aboo. Let's go over to our brother Leo Muhammad. My brother, over to you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, brother Kwaku. Thank you, brother Dr. Aboo. And I pray that your beloved recovers from her illness. Just in closing, beloved, where do we go from here? We need knowledge, we need wisdom, we need understanding. This doesn't come via osmosis, as I said. It means that we have to study. We have to humble ourselves and become students once again. And don't begin our studies thinking that we already know, but be open to review that which we know in order to really gain a true knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We need, as a people, to give to one another freedom, justice, and equality. What we want for ourselves, we must want for each other. This is important. If we don't do this, all our talk is just vanity. It's just a waste of time. If we do not give to one another freedom, justice, and equality. I didn't make a note of this, but I got to say this because Dr. Aboo says it over and over again, and it's important. We have to, once again, elevate our women to the pedestal where they belong. Because if there was no God, we would literally have to worship you, the woman. And then the final thing I'm saying, family, is that we need to cultivate that thing called love. The word love and the word life is the same thing. It's the same word. Love and life. We must cultivate love among ourselves and among our family. And finally, if we do all of these things, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, freedom, justice, equality, the love and the respect of the female, then we will have a genuine unity. That's the way forward.
Vudum, rise up, Brother Leo Muhammad. I'd like to thank the entire panel for another wonderful discussion and conversation this evening, and all being well, you know, we will be doing it again, same time next strong. So, you know, family, let's realize that we have experienced at least 400 to 500 years of indoctrination, 500 years of lies. They've had 500 years to actually, yes, so rising up the book there that you're putting up, 500 years, you know, that we have been told that we as a people, you know, because of our blackness, that we are evil, we've been demonized, we've been told that we're inferior, you know, we've been looked down upon as in a condescending way. We were told that, you know, as Africans, we were savages, we lived in trees. We've been told so many lies. Well, we are here to dispel the lies, because, you know, we were told that we were cannibals, but the reality was they were cannibals when they were living in the caves. They told us that we were living, you know, in trees, and they were the ones who didn't have houses that were living in. 500 years of misinformation and indoctrination. They colonized our worldview. They colonized the image of our God. They colonized, you know, everything, you know. So we've got a huge amount of work that we need to do as a people now to de-brainwash our minds. So family, we are spot on the hour of 22 hours. I want to thank each and every one of you for staying with us tonight. Please rejoin us again next strong and put the word out there as well. We'll put out what the topic for this Hey, Odabo family, Odabo, one love.
Assalamu alaikum.
Family, thank you family. One love. Peace and love. Peace, love, and light, as the Bag family would say as well. Budum! Dr. Aboo. Budum.
Well done, sister. Well done. Very well done, Sister Shanice.
Stay on the line, panel. Stay on the line. Thank you.